Hi everyone. In this video, I'd like to talk about how to solve the following equation. And this will involve the quadratic formula. So we start off with the equation 10u times parentheses u plus 1 close parentheses plus 3 equals 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute 10u over the parentheses. So to do that, I'm going to multiply 10u times u and then add that to 10u times 1. So let's write down what we get. I'm going to go 10u times u plus 10u times 1. Now I know anything times 1 is just itself, but I did write that down just so we can be really clear about what's happening with the distribution there. So there I used the distributive property, and I'll just write that down here. So this was the distributive property. Okay, so let's keep going. I did the distributive work right there, and I still need to copy paste my plus 3 and also the equal sign and the 0. I didn't do anything with those items, so I'll just copy paste them down. And I'm always working down the paper. That just helps me keep everything really lined up and I don't lose any terms in my work. All right, let's clean up what we have. So 10u times u is going to be 10u squared plus 10u plus 3 equals 0. And again, I'm just keeping everything nice and lined up so that nothing wanders away on me. Now, this is a quadratic equation. I could try and factor it, but I'm not seeing any factorization pop right out at me, and so I don't want to waste too much time doodling around with that idea. So I'm just going to dive right in there with the quadratic formula. So I write this down over here, the quadratic formula. There is a song you can use to remember the quadratic formula, and I won't scare you with my singing, so I'll spare you those details. But the quadratic formula basically says ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And if you want to solve that for x, the formula that you use is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So our task is to identify what are the values for a, b, and c, and then plug them in, and we're done. So here we've got a equals 10, b equals 10, and also c equals 3. So now plugging in, I know that my solution is going to look like x equals negative b, which is negative 10 in this case, plus or minus the square root of b squared. So I'll write that down. That's going to be 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 10, times c, all over 2a. Now, I could go and type this right into a calculator. I'm going to tidy things up a little bit here just so that I don't miss a parentheses. We can always double check it with technology, but if we try to simplify here, I'm going to have x equals negative 10 plus or minus. And now I'm working under the square root there. I've got 10 squared, which is 100, minus 4 times 10, which is 40, times 3 is 120, all over 2 times 10, which is 20. And let's tidy this up a little bit more before we head over to the calculator. We're going to have negative 10 out in front, plus or minus the square root of negative 20 all over 20. And again, we can still head to technology, but I really would like to talk a little bit more about this so that we try to do as much pencil and paper and much thinking about the problem as possible. Now, let's just talk here about properties of roots and radicals. So properties of radicals, we have this property that says the square root of a times b is just the square root of a times the square root of b. So if I have something like the square root of negative 20, that's the same thing as the square root of negative 1 times 4 times 5. And the reason I broke it up that way is because I know something about the square root of negative 1, and I know something about the square root of 4, and, well, the square root of 5 is as simple as I can get without getting involved with decimals. So here I would have I, square root of negative 1 is I, the square root of 4 is 2, and square root of 5 is just a regular old square root of 5. So that simplifies to 2i square root of 5. So that's properties of roots and radicals. So if I try to simplify this a bit more, I've got a negative 10 plus or minus 2i square root of 5 all over 20. And I could factor out a 2 of that numerator and cancel. So if I do that, I'm going to have a negative 5 plus or minus the square root of I. The plus or minus I square root of 5 all over 10. And the reason for that maneuver is I took out a 2. I factored out a 2. And if I do that in the bottom, I better do that in the top.